Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jean-Philippe Bétouin of the Trusted Connectivity Alliance, and I would like to warmly welcome you today to this webinar. We will hear from a panel of experts on why testing against the ever-growing range of eSIM-enabled devices is necessary to ensure the interoperability and promote consumer trust, but also reduce costs and accelerate time to market. But before we get started, let me quickly explain a few housekeeping points. So first, all attendees will remain muted throughout this webinar. If you are experiencing any technical issues and need assistance, please use the question on the right-hand side of your panel to contact the organizers. Finally, if you're having trouble with your audio, we recommend you leave the webinar and join again. If the problem persists, you can dial in using your telephone. These details are in the email that you should have received when registering. Also, quick reminder that this webinar will include a Q&A discussion with our panel of speakers. So we encourage you to submit your questions throughout the webinar using the question box. And finally, I would like to share some information about TCA in case some of you don't know us. So the TCA is the Trusted Connectivity Alliance. We are a global industry association working to enable trust in a connected future. Our vision is to drive the sustained growth of a connected society through trusted connectivity. So the organization has evolved in the past from the SIM Alliance in 2020, reflecting the continued expansion of the global SIM industry, but also the need for better partnerships and collaboration. Next, please. Yeah, you can see here the list of our members. So they include leading providers of secure connectivity solutions for consumer, some of them for IoT or M2M. So we have a diversity of members, which for most of them participate in the TCA working groups to identify, define, and provide deliverables that could be of a technical, strategic, or marketing nature, depending on the working group. So all the members could benefit from an active community of talents and experts in embedded security, SIM cards, and connectivity and devices. Next, please. So the drive for eSIM interoperability testing. So that's a key initiative for TCA that we are going to cover in this webinar. And our initial goal was to promote an interoperable, reliable, but also a scalable connectivity ecosystem. Next one. So, I mean, unless you have been on the moon for the past few years, you know that the eSIM is here to last, and the expansion of the eSIM ecosystem is creating many opportunities. For example, for operators, it is also becoming increasingly difficult for them to ensure the interoperability and compatibility of their profiles with the wide variety of devices on the market. So the ever-growing range of eSIM-enabled devices means profile testing is becoming more and more complex. So as a result, some issues may only emerge when solutions are already deployed and live in the field, and that may erode, in some cases, consumer confidence or have some bad reputational consequences. It also has a significant commercial impact for operators who have, for a growing number of them, heavily invested in acquiring new subscribers. Next one. So that's why TCA 1 year ago has decided to invest in this interoperability service that we are offering with our German partner COMPRION. So as you know, TCA has a proven pedigree over decades promoting interoperability. across the SIM ecosystem, and we are committed to supporting the development of the eSIM technology, of course. So as part of this work, TCA has launched an eSIM interoperability service to develop increased confidence and trust across the eSIM ecosystem. And that's what we are going to present to you today. It's delivered by the test solution provider COMPRION. And this new service enables mobile and other network operators to test how their eSIM profiles interact with an extensive range of consumer eSIM devices. And de facto, we have created with COMPRION the largest eSIM devices library. It's located at COMPRION offices in Paderborn, in the center of Germany. And we are testing MNO's profiles with this big library of eSIM-enabled devices. So we believe this will help operators address and mitigate individual interoperability challenges that they may meet with some of their profile against some special or particular devices. Next. So we will now hear from our speakers on why eSIM profile testing is key to promoting consumer trust and realizing the full, truly transformative potential of this eSIM technology, and how operators can test against the ever-growing range of eSIM-enabled devices and industry requirement necessary to ensure this true interoperability. So to kick off the discussion, I will now hand over to Yolanda Sanz, Director of the GSMA eSIM Working Group, who will explain how interoperability testing is addressing key challenges for operators as the eSIM ecosystem continues to scale up. Yolanda?
Thank you very much, Jean-Philippe, for the kind introduction. And of course, thank you very much, TCA, to invite me into this fantastic webinar, because GSMA is always keen to support any activity, particularly the one related to interoperability, which is a key in order to ensure that the eSIM ecosystem can work properly. So let's start with the first slide, please. So before we enter in the key of the interoperability testing from the operator side, let's have a quick view of the consumer and IoT market. The data that you have on the screen can be found on different reports that GSMA Intelligence released in case you want to extend further information on eSIM market. We have on the left side, which is the consumer perspective, and we can say already that there are more than 400 operators that are offering commercial eSIM services for smartphones. Definitely, eSIM-only effects that was launched in September 2022 has a clear impact in the US and global market. And we can inform now that there are more than 200 devices that are already launched with eSIM capability. On the IoT side, recent deployments such as the IoT specification, but also a continuous product innovation from the eSIM vendors, definitely the IoT is a promising market for the eSIM. So as the eSIM market is growth and size in terms of complexity, this is also have an impact on the interoperability issues that can raise. And that's why we are here today, just to understand why test interoperability is a key in the context of the eSIM. If we can go to the next slide, please. And in order to explain why interoperability testing is a key on the eSIM, please allow me to make a comparison between the traditional SIMs and the eSIMs. So in the SIMs, we have also an operator profile that contain the credential and the access required to authenticate the user into the network. But also we have a SIM operating system that contain the files and the applications in order to connect to the network. For instance, we have the network authentication algorithms such as MileNACH and TUAC that those are implemented on the SIM operating system. And of course, the operator profile and the SIM operating system are sit on the hardware of the SIM card. And then the operator, the SIM operating system, and the hardware are all attached. And they are all together during the life cycle of the SIM card. That means the operator has the opportunity to check the operator profile with the features that are implemented in the SIM. Because they are together, also they have the opportunity to select the SIM cards where the operator profile is going to be installed. And this is all done ahead of put the operator profile into the market. So give a lot of opportunity for the operator testing and make any kind of check between their operator profile and the SIM card itself. However, if we move to the eSIM, the paradigm has been changed. Although we still have an operator profile with the same objective, which is authenticate the user into the network, this operator profile is downloaded into any kind of UICC that can be in the market. And the operator, ahead of the profile download, they don't know what is going to be the eSIM where the profile is going to be downloaded. Therefore, they don't know what are going to be the features that the eSIM implemented, whether the profile is going to be work or not. So at the point where the profile is downloaded, installed, the operator may detect that the UICC cannot be authenticated. Well, the profile cannot be authenticated against the network because it doesn't work for any reason. It can be for some application on the profile, or it can be because some features are not implemented on the UICC operating system. That's why it's a key for the operator try to test the profile with a variance of UICC and devices that are already in the market in order to make sure that the profile is going to work at the point where the user get the profile in order to authenticate the device into the network. So if we go into more details, can we go to the next slide, please? This is another example why the test interoperability is more relevant for the eSIM. In version 3 of consumer, we have defined a set of optional features that can be implemented by the UICC and by the device. As I mentioned, those are optional features that may or not may support for the device and the UICC. Some of these features are also impacting the operator profile directly. And I can mention some of them, which is like device change that allow the profile to move from one device to another. Also remote profile management that allow the enable, disable the profile remotely from the operator side. Enterprise that also allow an enterprise profile to be updated or deleted or enabled or disabled by any enterprise. So those are the set of features that has an impact on the operator profile as well. So that's why it's also a key for the operator to be able to test their profile against the features that are supported. So what I want to summarize with this slide is that as the eSIM ecosystem continue to expand, to incorporate more technical requirements, more technical features that are required from the industry. On the other side, the interoperability is also increase the complexity and also erase more risk to have interoperability issues. That's why, again, it's critical for the operator to be able to test their profiles against several devices that are already in the market. If we go to the next slide, please. As I already mentioned, there are a bunch of devices already in the market that support a set of eSIM features. And on the other side, we have the operator that is trying to build the profile with a set of features that needs to work with several UICCs from different vendors that are already on the market. So it is really required to have a mechanism from the operator side to understand whether their profile features that can be a standard or it can be proprietary is gonna work with a bunch of devices UICC that are already on the market. It's good for the operator to understand, based on the market, the different eSIM features and network services that are supported on the UICC and on the device, because this is going to help the operator to build a profile that is going to suitable for a bunch of devices and UICC that are in the market. Next slide, please. That's why enabling the operator to test their eSIM profiles with not one device, but with a bunch of devices that are already in the market together with the UICCs, then it's helped the operator to identify and address individual interoperability and compatibility issues before the profile is put on the market. Then the operator can match certain features, general features that are supported by the different UICCs and devices and by their profile, and make a kind of map in order to make sure to build the profile that is going to be interoperable into the market. And that's why these services that TCA has put in place, the interoperability testing, is a key to ensure or at least improve the interoperability between the operator profiles and the device that are already in the market. And in order to go into more details, I would like to invite Andras Talas from COMPRION, that he will be able to explain us more details how this service is going to work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yolanda. I also welcome everyone. My name is Andras Talas. I'm technical consultant at COMPRION, which is a German-based test tool provider company. I'm mainly working in the fields of NFC and eSIM, and I will talk to you about the service and how you can use this service. Before doing so, I would like to spend one slide to explain why we think at COMPRION that this service is currently relevant on the market. So as has been mentioned by Jean-Philippe, the eSIM ecosystem grows, and so does the interoperability risk. It means that if the UICC device and the profile has not been tested against each other, compatibility problems can occur. Some examples which we have seen in the not so late time: UICC strictly interprets the ETSI specification and requires specific parameters, but the profile does not contain it. Or UICC requires a specific profile format for a specific feature, but the profile was not created using this format. Or a third one, the standard was not clear on something, and the UICC and profile makers followed a different interpretation, and thus the UICC and the profile are not compatible. And the last one, the profile is simply not compatible to TCA standard, because unlike for the eSIM and for the device, for the profile there is no compliance program. So to handle this interoperability risk, TCA and COMPRION has launched the eSIM interoperability service, and it enables mobile operators and other network operators to test how their eSIM profiles interact with an extensive range of consumer eSIM devices. After the slides, let me introduce you in 5 steps the service and how you can use this service. The first step, and we can go to the first step, is to explore the service. It means there is a detailed service description document which needs to be downloaded and studied. It contains a description about the testing, pricing information, and so on. So once this has been explored, in the next step, the testing scope needs to be determined. There are 2 questions: what to test and how to test. What to test means that the operator needs to select from the device inventory those specific devices which they want to use for testing against their profile. Then they need to select which of their profiles they want to test with. And finally, they need to select those features that they want to test. In case they want to test more advanced features, for example, behavior of the applet, that also needs to be defined. Then the second question, how to test. There are 3 different testing modes, out of which the operator needs to select which one he wants to use. One is a self-service on-site testing at COMPRION premises in Paderborn, Germany. Second possibility is a self-service remote testing via Microsoft Teams. And the third one is when the testing is conducted by COMPRION experts. Then Step 3, the operator needs to prepare the profiles for testing. It means the operator needs to ensure that the profile is available on a commercial SMDP Plus server. He needs to create a QR code for downloading the profile, and then he needs to share the QR code with COMPRION. Then the next step is the testing itself. COMPRION selects the test device. In case this is required, mirrors the user interface and starts the testing by downloading the profile. Once the profile is downloaded to the phone, a number of scenarios are tested. Just the main examples: checking the device is connected to a mobile network, making a call, sending a text message, accessing the internet, and if requested, analyzing the behavior of an applet. In case we find any interoperability issues, this is well documented. And after the testing comes step 5. Could you please go to the next slide? Yes, the testing results. One slide back, yes. Testing results. COMPRION shares the full test report with the customer. And if any issue is identified which the customer is unable to resolve, then COMPRION can conduct a root cause analysis. So these were the 5 steps introducing the service and how the service can be used. And I have one more slide regarding the benefits of this service. It has been said already that the operators can offload or outsource most of their profile testing. This is, as you can see from these presentations, it minimizes the risk of interoperability issues. And also issues besides the profile, issues with the devices, EUICC's backend can also be identified. Again, just some examples which we have lately seen. For example, a device is not connecting to the network, or a device is not sending a notification, or an EUICC accepting only specially formatted profiles, or this is simply not possible to initiate, for example, a call on the backend. So these are the benefits which we found. In the next part of the seminar, of this webinar, there will be 3 companies talking about their real-life experience about the service. With 2 of them, we have already accomplished the profile testing, and with one of them, we will do it in the near future. Let me hand it over to Vera from floLIVE to talk about this service and the benefits they found.
Thank you, Anders. Hello, I'm Vera Miretsky. I'm leading R&D at floLIVE, where we actually specialize in IoT connectivity. Next slide, please. Okay, let me give you a brief overview of our company and why eSIM interoperability is important for us. We are a rapidly growing company with 160 employees, and over half of them are dedicated to R&D as we continue to invest in our technology. Backed by strong financial support from our investors, we have developed and owned the entire holistic solution for IoT connectivity. Starting it's from patented multi-IMSI solution to our full core network and complete connectivity management platform, including online rating, billing, everything is built on the latest and greatest technology running both on cloud and on-prem. Next, please. So using all this, our technology, we have built literally the largest global cellular infrastructure. We directly integrated to over than 30 MNOs, and we can offer to our customers really premium local connectivity experience globally over the world. And leveraging our technology and infrastructure, we can provide actually multiple services to our customers. It's including CMP, core network, EUICC, RSP, and global connectivity itself. So consumer eSIM, it was very natural addition for us, giving the growing demands from MNOs for their trial solutions. And also transition to CGP 3132, which actually connecting these two worlds, right? We are used to work in IoT with machine-to-machine standard. Now we are moving more to like consumer standard. So for us, it was natural move. But of course, consumer eSIM comes with its own set of challenges. Can you move to the next one? In IoT world, customers typically know which device will use the SIM, right? And we have our own testing lab equipped with the best advanced tools, part of them developed by our team, and we can assure the seamless connectivity for our customers. We're dedicated to achieving 100% connectivity for each device. And it's part of the customer, our company culture. Confidence, trust of the customers are crucial for us. And then we are coming to consumers realm, and then as already described, right? The profile could be downloaded onto hundreds of the devices, and more devices being added every day. So this unpredictability is not acceptable by us. And this is why we believe this interoperability testing is crucial. So we actually have already a profile running in production, but for the new one, extended, as Alanta mentioned, when we are adding more features, we collaborated with TCA and COMPRION to test our extended profile. It was tested on several devices. And actually, for me, it's the best result. We did find an issue and on one of the phones, and it was fixed before we released the profile to the end users. So it's really, from my perspective, this is the success. You know, always the negative test, it means we did it right. Can you move to the next one? So moving forward, we plan also to continue collaboration with TCA and with COMPRION and test also our next generation eSIM profile. It includes our multi-IMSI support. If there are people who are curious why multi-IMSI is essential also for eSIM, you can contact me after the webinar. We will not discuss it in this webinar, but it's really interesting. So to summarize, I believe it should be really a joint offer between TCA, GSMA, service providers, and also device manufacturer, because actually we are in the same boat, right? Same unpredictability from the service provider is experienced also by manufacturers. So we need to create really the large library of the devices and the profiles that can increase the confidence on both sides, service providers and the manufacturers. So thank you, COMPRION, Andres, Jean-Philippe, for your support, and let's move to the next presenter.
Thank you, Vera, for that. Hello, my name's Sam Colley, and I work in product strategy at G&D, or Giesecke+Devrient, and I focus on connectivity and eSIM alongside our other digital offerings. So on to the next slide, please. So essentially, who is G&D? We're a global security tech company with a leading presence in 3 key segments: digital security, financial platforms, and currency technology. So what does that really mean? Essentially, what we're doing is keeping people's pockets safe, be it from the secure elements in credit cards and SIM cards to embedded elements in your phones for e-payments, or even the security on your banknotes. Therefore, working on a daily basis really to secure people's personal data. Just moving to the next slide, please. And so where do we fit really into telecommunications and the OEM space? And why are we here today? Within our digital security portfolio, there are also 3 key pillars. So there's identity technology, which is essentially focusing on passports and IDs, digital infrastructure, which is kind of secure cloud and other components to deliver the secure infrastructure piece. But the most relevant here really is the connectivity and IoT. And so G&D are both both the global leader in eSIM technology and eSIM downloads, having supported so far in the world, I think, the largest number of downloads to date, and the exclusive partner of one of the world's leading eSIM-only handsets on the consumer side. But G&D is also one of the world's leading MVNOs in IoT and beyond IoT as well. we're therefore really able to leverage that unique position in owning the full stack. I think it's one of the only providers in the whole market, all the way from the OS on the SIM card all the way through to the core network, in order to deploy very innovative solutions to some of the industry's toughest problems, be it combining widely deployed technologies such as multi-IMSI and eSIM, or creating completely new solutions that require the interaction of the whole stack in order to be achieved. So slide 3. So to the testing, sorry, next slide, sorry. So to the testing, really, what we're trying to achieve, I think, as Andreas explained, really we wanted to establish whether our profile was kind of globally compatible with a wide range of devices on the consumer side. And so we were testing all of the major features around eSIM downloads and enablement, so multiple profile enablement within the device, and also possibly more importantly, the subsequent connection to the network once the profile is downloaded. So how did we get on? If we move to the next slide, we can have a look at that. Around 85% of the tests were successful across 9 devices from 6 manufacturers. But as kind of Vera mentioned, the most important ones really were the ones that weren't successful. And the challenges really varied somewhat, from failing to receive kind of notifications to the SMDP Plus, to not establishing a connection at all on the data side, or to having a connection on the data side, but maybe some limited services such as SMS after the profile was installed. And I think it's these kind of varied responses that really kind of demonstrate the value of the program, this testing program with TCA and COMPRION, because I think we can kind of all agree that the interoperability between profiles and OEMs is really essential if we're going to scale eSIM adoption, identifying any problems and issues early, and not having to put the customer through our own learnings and experiences when we're dealing with new technology is essential for their customer experience, and also really to provide much greater feedback to the OEMs in terms of how they can optimize their own firmware and their own software in order to create this kind of global compatibility with as many profiles as possible. But then it also, I think, importantly provides a really kind of important platform so this program can hopefully be expanded in the future, not just to consumer devices, but IoT devices, which, as we kind of see the new standards coming in, like SGP32, and the kind of rapidly increasing adoption of eSIM in the marketplace, this is going to be really essential moving forward. And so with that, I will pass on to our next speaker, Paul, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. My name is Paul Marshall. I'm Chief Customer Officer and a founder of Eseye back in 2007. And our business is in managed connectivity for IoT devices. Well, we connect devices all around the world, and we use localization to push profiles to SIM cards, what we've been talking about today. And today we use SGP02, which is the M2M version of the UICC standard. Now, I'm responsible for our team of technical consultants, and we work with customers to make sure their IT device is going to work effectively and reliably. And we are more than enthusiastic about this kind of testing, because for us, this is what gets customers' devices as close to 100% connected as possible, and obviously reduces support tickets and therefore reduces the challenges that our customers have. So if we jump onto the next slide, please. Just say that customers trust us to manage the connectivity across the mobile network operators that we've integrated into our platform. And the challenge that we have is making sure those devices are going to operate as the new profiles are loaded, because of course that's going to be during the lifetime of the device. And so this is part of the work that we have to do. And it's obviously important for our customers that we get this right. But because we're managing the connectivity for the life cycle, obviously it's our responsibility to ensure the devices are performing well on the network throughout the entire life of the product. So if I give an example here, we had one customer where they had a device that could re-register on a network several hundred times an hour. Now, this affected both the home network, because they were having to deal with it, but the network that they were roaming on with excessive signaling. And for us, the testing that we're seeing on some of the slides today, these are the kind of things where we will identify these problems early on and make sure that they get stopped. So for me, moving IT devices to IT device testing, obviously we talked a lot about consumer device testing today, but moving to IoT devices, this is going to have a lot more requirements for how we test. It's going to be more test requirements on the equipment, because we have to make sure that equipment is going to work well across the networks. And this is obviously directly customer affecting. But also we need to make sure that it works well across the range of operators that they're going to be working on, because those operators are delivering the service and they need to be confident that the devices that we're putting on those networks are going to be performing correctly. I suppose we go on to the next slide then, please, because for me, this is where, from the IoT perspective, it gets really exciting. I haven't got our sales pitch for IoT today, I'm afraid, but we're focused on managed connectivity, and we use the GSMA standards to do this. Now, as the new SGP32 standards come along, it's going to make it easier for devices to pull a new profile from a wider range of MNOs, different network operators. And it might be that what we see in the market is some IoT device manufacturers are going to leave it to customers to set up a contract with a network operator and then pull the SIM profile and start to use it. Now, for the example of this, imagine a manufacturer of tracking devices. Now, today, they probably manufacture that device as a standard product and sell it to hundreds of customers around the globe. And each of those customers will put in plastic SIM cards as they ship it to the end users. And they'll test and they'll check each one at a time. But of course, what the new standards, the SGP32 standard, mean that those people who are installing the SIM cards and then selling on that service might decide to suddenly switch mobile network operators, but not just one at a time by changing SIM cards, but several thousand at a time. And what, of course, that starts to mean is that the network operators are going to see not one device attaching to the network, and if it's not behaving correctly, then they will see the misbehavior of one device. But actually, they could see thousands of devices suddenly giving them that problem at the same time. And that's where the testing that we've been talking about today becomes so vitally important, to make sure that those devices, as they're being shipped out, are going to be compatible when end users do this kind of thing. Now, whilst we're talking about their end users setting up end contracts and doing it themselves, I truly believe that customers are going to want managed connectivity for the life of their devices. And for that, of course, we as Eseye need to be confident that there's interoperability between the customer's devices that we're putting on the network and we're managing, and all the MNOs that we're going to be managing the connectivity onto those devices during their deployment and through the lifetime in different parts of the world. And that brings me to sort of well, two main key features, I suppose. Firstly, there's our network operator partners, the MNO partners that we use, the profiles that we're putting onto the SIM cards. They need to know that we're managing quality products. And testing like this that we've been talking about, this is the kind of thing which allows us to demonstrate and have confidence in those products that we're going to be deploying. But similarly, our customers need to be comfortable that as they start to scale to hundreds of thousands of devices in multiple countries, they're not going to suddenly find that they've got restrictions on which network operators they can use because, for whatever reason, the device isn't compatible with it. And I suppose, of course, the most important is the end user of the application. And this is probably where I wrap it up, which is to say, whether it's an EV charger or a healthcare application, in every case, getting connectivity as close to 100% as possible is absolutely essential for IoT devices. And this is the kind of testing that really makes a difference in that example. I think now we're moving over to the panel session. So Jean-Philippe, can I pass back to you, please?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. So that concludes our presentation. Before we move into the Q&A session, I would like to remind everyone that a recording of this presentation will be made available on the TCA YouTube channel. You can also keep up to date with our latest specification, resources, news by visiting our website. We have also a monthly newsletter, and you can follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. So thank you to everyone for submitting their questions. To kick things off with our first question, let's start with money. It's always a key topic. So we have this question: can you provide some insights on the commercial aspects to use the service? I guess this one could be for you, Andras, right?
Yeah, yes. So the testing price is time-based. Half day is the minimum amount that can be purchased, and half day costs 700 euros. And for TCA members, there is a discount.
How many devices you can test in a half day?
Let's say for device, I calculate normally 1 hour per device.
D'accord. Okay. Okay, so I guess that addresses the question. I have another nice one. Does an operator need to adapt their eSIM profiles to each and every device? Wow. I guess that should be a question for Sam from D&D. Sam?
Hi, yeah. So, I mean, technically, I think if everyone's following the rules, then the profile shouldn't need to be adapted for every single device. But obviously, every single OEM and device maker does approach things slightly differently. There can be differences in the way the firmware is implemented and how that interacts with the device as well. So I think, again, it kind of demonstrates the importance of this program, because even if you have, you know, a very generic profile, then, you know, it could be something on the device side that maybe is preventing that from working as seamlessly as you would have hoped. And I think as the kind of market evolves and everyone learns a bit more about what is impacting the interoperability, I think, you know, and again, this is one of the benefits of the program, is that feedback can be given to the OEMs during these testing phases, and hopefully then the OEMs can then take that on board and make changes. Likewise, also obviously the profile creators themselves. So I think, you know, at the moment, you know, this testing is very valuable in terms of answering that question. But hopefully longer term, this testing platform will help resolve some of those problems, and then yes, your profile will not need to be adapted for any different OEM.
Thank you, Sam. I have one on complex setup with regard to orchestration. So the question is how MNO implement their BSS supporting 2 SMDP+ platforms. So I guess that will be your challenge, Vera.
Yeah. So actually, as I said, we just an example, but I believe all MNOs now, they need to make sure that also from all the management platform, they have also ability to manage the profiles. Right? The same like way we provide management for the regular SIMs. We need to provide also management for profiles, meaning integrations with the SMDP+ partner, ability to download to profiles and track their status. So this is our integration, and with all MNOs now will have to move into this direction because this is the new reality.
Thank you, Vera. I have one which is related more to device testing than eSIM. So what is the best way to test device compatibility when using EUICCs and want to test the swap of different MNO profiles? Maybe Paul?
Thank you. Yes, well, I think that's a really good question, because particularly for IoT devices, knowing that device is going to be able to swap profiles in the future really matters. I think there's probably 3 things to talk about here. And the first is probably going to be historic very quickly, which is the modem. And what we see at the moment is customers maybe with older devices looking to use EUICC and finding that they've got an older modem which doesn't support some of the features required. So that's the first one. But I think I'm going to put that to one side and say, actually, more modern modems now will all support EUICC, but it's worth checking. And then the second thing I think that people have to get right is the firmware. The firmware's got to permit the download and actually allow it. So we have a customer, for example, with a battery operated device where they turn the device on very infrequently to upload data to the cloud, but they only turn it on for a very short period of time. And of course, what that means is that the EUICC download process doesn't have time to complete. Now, we work with them with innovative solutions to allow them to solve those problems. But those are the kind of things that people need to look at testing individual devices to say, will they be EUICC compliant? And then I suppose the final one, which is probably more trivial, which is, do the devices have any unique configuration per network operator? And if the network operator is changed during the life of the device, does that cause an issue with the config? Now, the most obvious one there is the APN, which is the gateway between the mobile network and the internet. If the device is not setting the APN up correctly for the new profile, then it's possible that device will suddenly go dark. So I think it's a good question. There are those 3 things really need to be addressed to make sure that devices are going to be compatible with the EUICC.
Thank you, Paul. Maybe Vera or Sam, you have an opinion on this one too?
Yeah, we actually also have a lot of experience now with, as Paul mentioned, the downloading of profile, the entire profile can be quite heavy operation for IoT devices. That's why we're also coming with multi-IMSI solution that can be, it's managed on the SIM itself. And there is also another challenge for some cases. We need also, to switch RSP. So this adding additional complexity. We have this scenario with Vodafone Turkey in order to support the Turkey solution. So we implemented very complex solution to moving the profiles. In this case, we are not changing only the operator. We are changing also RSP. So it's even more complicated solution that need to consider.
Thank you, Vera. Maybe Sam, you have an opinion on this one?
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of interpreting the question slightly differently in terms of, I guess once an embedded SIM is in, right, it's in. And so how do you know in advance that it's compatible with the device? And I think, with that, really it's about planning in my opinion, and working with your partner, if they have like G&D do kind of the verification process for early stage devices to check compatibility, and maybe that can be done with a pSIM initially to check the compatibility with maybe the applets and things, but then obviously you'd need to do a final test with the embedded SIM in there as well, because there are differences. But I think really it's all about forward planning as early as you can in order to run these tests as early as possible, and that could be on the consumer side or the IoT side. It really doesn't matter, in order to kind of troubleshoot and identify what might be issues, be it in firmware like Paul suggested, or device capabilities like Vera was mentioning.
Can say just to add, I have this experience when customers are saying, okay, we have already the great product, we have the device, we just need to plug in the connectivity. Guys, it's not such simple.
Hi, Yolanda, I have a nice for you. Is it possible to enable two profiles in the same eSIM at the same time?
Yes, now thanks to the eSIM version 3 consumer specification that we have released, we allow the possibility to have a single hardware, which is the eSIM, and have two profiles active at the same time. So our specification does not limit the number of profiles that can be active at the same time. This is implementation specific, and of course it depends on the UICC memory, but also the modem capability. But just of course, now in consumer, we are allowed to have multiple enabled profile active to different networks at the same time. And recently, the eSIM group has already approved the work item for IoT. So we will see also multiple enabled profiles in the context of IoT.
Thank you, Yolanda. Andreas, I have one for you. Do you offer anything for testing eUICC and multi-IMSI together, or do you test profile download in case of multi-IMSI?
I cannot answer this question right now, but we will answer this question for you offline.
Okay. Okay. I have this one. How can communication service providers address interoperability concerns with devices or OEMs moving towards eSIM only for consumer use cases? Maybe Sam?
Yeah, so it's kind of similar to one of the previous questions, and it's really kind of at the moment a mixture of both, the CSP's responsibility, but also the OEM. But I think where possible, I think it's a responsibility of the connectivity service provider to really try and standardize the makeup of an eSIM profile, because if they can do that and all eSIM profiles are essentially, built the same way, then that really kind of allows OEMs to more easily and rapidly customize, all of the different elements of the device, firmware, etc., that could interact negatively with that profile. So, I think it's trying to keep your profile as simple as possible without obviously devaluing it, and then not necessarily kind of changing that for different applications and different use cases, and trying to kind of be as consistent as possible and following the standards.
Vera, maybe also?
Yeah. I agree with Sam that we already discussed it a lot, and You see, we know that all archivers, like you will see on the NTT side, the long list of the devices that they verify they have on. Right, we have also on our network, we have visibility of the devices. So it's not only by testing, but checking the devices is actually connected with the eSIM. We can assume, okay, on this device it is okay, and we have confidence to say to our customers that it's working. But the best still to have this collaboration together is with manufacturers and just have a common testing platform.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I have one for me at last. Do you contact OEM, EUM once any issues occurred on the device? So the answer is yes. As you know, the TCA is made up of most of the EUM in the world. I guess we represent together 95% market share on eSIM. So yeah, when COMPRION find issues related to the eSIM, they are directly escalated to the EUM, and we had that issue in the past. But we also contact OEMs, and we have helped to debug some tier 1 smartphones, even some iconic one in the past 9 months. So this is totally done in liaison with EUM and OEMs. And generally, the EUM that are part of TCA, they escalate the issue with their OEM or ODM customers. I have one for Andras. Is it possible to perform interoperability testing with eSIM LPA chipset level? So I guess here they mean LPAE. Can we perform this service with LPAE, Andras?
On the consumer side, at least for LPAE, we do not see really a big market share, but I think in general it could be possible. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Andras. Let me check. I have another for you. How to debug Java card applets on eSIMs without tracing the SIM-ME communication? Well,
yeah. So currently the applet can be tested on user interaction level. It means we can test the behavior of the applet when it is triggered on the UI of the phone, and also the result is returned on the UI of the phone. But also at COMPRION, we are working on a solution to monitor the eSIM modem interface, and this testing tool is expected to be released towards the mid of the year.
Okay. Maybe another one for you. Some devices support eSIM natively, and other ones support via removable eSIM. How can removable eSIM be enabled after the device is manufactured? It's not really related to testing, but yeah.
What I would answer is that the device needs to support an LPA application, which needs to be available on the phone, and it makes the eSIM then work with the phone, and that needs to be installed on the device.
Okay. And we have a bunch of questions related to the long-awaited SGP32. Maybe the first one to Yolanda. What is the roadmap to release features to support SGP32 specs? Any earlier customer trial will be available. No pressure on GSMA here for sure.
Thank you very much, Jean-Philippe. So, as you may know, the first IoT specification, technical specification was released in 2023. This specification was based in consumer, but again, it was the first version. Afterwards, GSMA eSIM Group more concretely has been working in order to update this version to fix any issue that has been identified in the first version that was published. This version, which is version 1.1, is about to publish by the end of March. This is going to be the technical and requirement specification that help to build the product. But afterwards, we need to ensure certain level of functional compliance and security compliance. So we have to build the test specification, the compliance program, in order to make sure that the UICCs, IPA, IoT managers that are going to be in the field are compatible with the technical specification that we have created. And of course, this takes time because we are collaborating with other organizations like BTCRB and GCF for the IPA, global platform for the UICC compliance program. And we need also to work on the test specification, and we are expecting to have all the pieces complete by November of this year. So we can expect the first product to be released by December 2024. Before that, you can see products in the market, but those products are not going to be GSMA compliance until we have all the pieces that are required to ensure functional security compliance. And this, for the moment, is going to happen December 2024.
Thank you, Yolanda.
Yeah. In order to get ready, we going to start. We are starting already now working also. So once it's released, we should be ready also from our side. So we are starting it already now.
So on the TCA side, I guess you have understood that we don't cover AGP32 yet. We just cover AGP22 in this service. As Yolanda said, the specification and all the test suites and the certification programs will be ready by the end of 2024. And then once the first product get into the market, we will hopefully start adapting this service to AGP32 later in 2025, possibly the second half of 2025 to wait for the first plug fest and interop test between the different vendors. So that's the TCA position. We have a bunch again of question on AGP32. One of them is more on the APAD, APAE. Will the APAE be favored or the APAD? So that really depends. I will take this one. APAE has not been successful in smartphone because it's a little bit more complicated and it has to manage the GUI of the phones, which is not very practical from the SIM. It's much easier and much streamlined on the AGP32 to have APAE in the eSIM. So that's becoming a real option. So that's a very good question. We believe that most module will, of course, embed APAD at one stage, maybe not next year or the year after, because they will have to pass certifications for the new modules. So the market will very likely start with APAE first. And then we see a first categorization between 4G, 5G modules and LP1 constrained devices where they don't have that much resources in terms of flash or RAM. So for those very constrained devices like LP1 and BIoT, we believe APAE may rule, while you have APAD in the module side on the 4G, 5G devices. For the moment, it's a basic first understanding of what we see on the market, but it may still move. But obviously, the market will start with APAE because the module will have no time to be ready by 2026 and 2025, and then possibly APAE only on the LP1 and constrained devices.
Just to add there, Jean-Philippe, on that question, with IPAD, I mean, like a device OEM doesn't necessarily need to wait for the module manufacturer to implement an IPAD solution. I mean, if they want to do it themselves, you know, there are already reference codes available they can familiarize themselves with. G&D have one, for example, that can be requested by an OEM, and they can implement the IPAD natively on the device. So it's not necessarily having to wait for the module manufacturers to implement that. But as you said, IPAE will obviously be perfect for device constrained devices and things, and obviously as a kind of introduction to the market, but there are some advantages to having it natively on the hardware.
Thank you, Sam. Another question related to AGP32 more or less. For network constrained IoT devices, is a specific IoT profile required to be compatible with such kind of devices? So it's not required, but there is an option. It has been created by the TCA a few months ago. It's part of the TCA interoperable profile package, and it's called the minimal profile package, which is intended for, again, LP1 and BIoT ultra constrained devices. And the smallest profile that we managed to define with regard to the ETSI specifications is 135 bytes. So it's called the TCA IoT minimal profile, and you can download that from the TCA website now. Yeah.
If I could just jump in on that one, because I think that's really important, because one of the challenges we're seeing at the moment with people using the EUICC or the SGPO2 is some of the profiles from network operators can actually be very large, and that just the effort involved in downloading them and using them can be quite substantial and can cause some disruption to devices. So I think that's brilliant news.
Yeah. Sorry,
it's because many companies, they just took their regular profile from plastic and they try to convert it to the eSIM, and it's not suitable. Yeah, whatever we can keep on plastic, sometimes we need to clean up from the eSIM profile.
I have one for you, Yolanda. SGP32, can we use push mode to download the profile?
No, if we understand the push mode as we have defined in the M2M specification, where the profile trigger the profile download without interaction on the device from the user. So as I already mentioned, SGP32 is based on consumer, which is a pull model where the end user trigger all the operation of the profile. In the context of IoT, we don't have end user interaction, as you can imagine. However, we still have taken three mechanisms already defined in consumer specification. The first one is activation code, that in this particular case is provided by the UICC IoT manager. We have also the possibility to request the profile download using the default SNDP Plus address that is going to include on the IoT device. For those that are not familiar, SNDP Plus is the operator server that contains the profile that is going to be downloaded into the IoT device. And the last but not the least, we have also the mechanisms to link the device with the operator server using the GSMA discovery server, that the main goal is just to link the SNDP Plus with the IoT device. So still we are relying on a pull model, which is not the user as such, the one that triggered the profile download, but is more the IoT manager, or we use the seamless trigger profile download, which is the discovery service. So yeah, there is no push mode as defined in M2M as such.
Thank you, Yolanda. I have maybe one of the last ones. Is there any specific device required to do POC of eSIM IoT SGP32? So maybe it's a question for each of you. Do you have your favorite kind of Raspberry Pi device or whatever to do those POCs these days?
Yeah, you can use a Raspberry Pi, but if you're the OEM and you own the device, then you can use your own hardware to do the testing from a POC perspective, as long as you're happy to handle the source code. And obviously, there's a service that G&D can offer, for example, that would help an OEM implement that source code on the device. So there's not a specific requirement, but if you wanted to see it work, then a Raspberry Pi is an easy way to go for sure. That's my side.
We've implemented the full simulations of the modem behavior of this Raspberry Pi, and we have very good results.
Any other position on this one?
I'm with Sam on customers using their own devices wherever that's possible. I think it's if there are any issues that they have to deal with, it's far better to deal with them on a device where they're actually trying to solve the problem than on something else. So I would say yes, take your own device.
Okay.
The both.
Yeah. I have maybe a last one. Would you consider the device side to interoperability, since this seems to have been much more of an issue for us lately? So that's coming from an EUM who had interoperability issues with a big iconic smartphone brands, where their device enters a loop of constant enable, disable notification, and they cannot attach to the network. So here, what there is maybe the issue is not on the eSIM, is more on the device sometimes. Do you plan to do device testing, Andras?
Yes, this is of course possible. Devices also inside in the interoperability. So yeah.
And I remind our kind audience that we TCA and COMPRION are creating this eSIM-enabled device library in Paderborn. So you've seen the presentation from Andras. You can go to Paderborn with your engineers and do the testing. It's part of the service, so you can access any onset of this library. You have smartphones, you have laptops, you have watches, and it's permanently kept up to date. So you can do your own device testing. We on TCA side, we are discussing with some big device ecosystem to try to see what we can do, because they have some device maker that come with unperfect product or POCs or NPV, whatever, and they want to test their first prototypes against the profiles and eSIM. It's not easy play to set up that kind of service, so we are discussing that. But in the meantime, if you want to test devices, you go to this library in Paderborn, and with your best engineers, and you have access to all the most of the eSIM-enabled onsets of the ecosystem.
Maybe you can also keep a kind of library of the profiles of the main service providers and provide it opposite side to the manufacturer, to the device verifications, at least on the main profiles.
Yep. We have two last questions. One is to have a price estimate for a POC SGP32. Okay, we can address that via another channel. It's not an easy one. It really depends your statement of work. But yeah, 2024 is the year of the POC for SGP32. So that's something we can address via another channel. And I have a last one. On a Raspberry device, the problem is that we need a Linux-based LPA to carry out SGP32 POC. Is there any reference Linux LPA? I guess there are many, right?
I believe so.
Those are open source, no specified by GSMA at least. So
exactly,
those will be available on any open source, but that is not available on GSMA side.
I'm aware of 3 or 4 Linux LPA, not IPA, LPA. I'm not aware of any Linux IPA that could be open source, but the LPA, you have 2 or 3 that are existing. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a matter of time, I guess. It's just, I mean, if there is already LPA implementation open source, I don't see why it's not going to be IPA for the IoT. It's just a matter of time that they need some time to create a new one.
Okay. Okay, this is it on the question side. It was nearly 30 minutes of questions. Thank you for your dynamism and your interest in this service. And yeah, was very nice to have you here. We had 80 people all over the hour. So thanks for attending.
Just a quick note, I think that there is a Linux for IPA as well, FYI already. Oh. So yeah, they can contact.
It should be. If there is already for the LPA, it will be a big problem to create one for the IP. So,
thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So that's the end of the webinar. Thank you. Enjoy the week. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye.